what you're asking for the money for. I mean, if it's a service that's driven by a need that can't be predicted, then the funder will definitely cut you some slack. And again, you're a new startup organization, so it's obviously particularly true for you. But suppose you've been providing after-school remedial tutoring for the past 3 years. You have a rough idea how many kids are going to come to you, in this month and that month and the other month, and you make predictions on that basis. Everybody allows you some slack. If you have no idea whether you're going to get 20 kids or 200 kids, so and you have no basis for your projection that you're going to get 200 instead of 20, then they're not going to just give you funds just in case you're going to get 200 kids, or just in case you can't just ask for funds in case the ceiling springs a leak and you're going to need to hire somebody to fix it. There are funders who give funds for general administration and maintenance, although that's becoming less harder and harder to find. Most funders today are saying, I want you to spend the money on this, and that kind of in that kind of a situation, you really have to sit down with somebody who knows how to crunch the numbers and come up with something that's going to be fairly accurate. Most of the funders, and this is a DYCD sponsored session, so you're all familiar with DYCD in some way or another. They have excruciatingly detailed requirements that basically require that you account for every single penny that they've given you in terms of describing how it was spent. That doesn't mean that there's no understanding of something unanticipated, but you've got to explain why it was unanticipated if in fact something like that showed up. Getting all this down and it's okay to start off with a sort of a guesstimate. I think I'll need about $15,000 for such and such, but you can't give the proposal if that's all you have. I mean, you've really got to break it down and be able to credibly back up the numbers that you're going to be presenting in your proposal in detail. Now, why is investing in your organization versus other organizations a wise move for the grantor? I don't mean that you should be putting down other organizations. That's not the point. The point is that for some services, you're obviously not the only one providing that services. Whether it's senior care or remedial education or an AIDS clinic or whatever it may be, there may even be others that are providing it. Maybe in the context of different service mix, but there may be others providing it even in your neighborhood. So you can't say, and it doesn't look good for you to say, we're great, they stink. What you should say instead is what your special focus is. We focus on highly individualized care. We focus particularly on remedial math. We focus particularly on patients from a certain ethnic group or a certain religion or a certain socioeconomic sector. That doesn't mean that you are the one and only in the universe that does that. But if you show that you are addressing a need or emphasizing a need that others are either not addressing or maybe not emphasizing, and the grantor is particularly taken by the fact that you're providing this additional emphasis, it'll stand you in good stead. This is a principle that isn't unique to nonprofits. It's a business principle also. You always, when somebody starts up a business in particular, you always ask them, or their accountant should always ask them, what is your unique selling point? Sometimes it's more important, sometimes it's less important. I'm going to be making and selling undershirts. Well, you don't have to be unique when you're making and selling undershirts. It's a commodity, and I'm going to be selling sugar. Millions of people sell sugar. I'll be another one selling sugar. That's fine. But if you're going to be selling something a little bit higher end, or I'm going to be selling an MP3 player. Okay, that's fine. A lot of people are out there making and selling MP3 players. You will probably fail miserably unless you can demonstrate. We're talking to an investor in this situation, not a funder. Explain to me why people will want to buy yours rather than the other one, because there's already a lot of other ones, and that's common thinking in the business sector and in the nonprofit sector. If you're providing funding for something, and you're talking generally to business people, that's the mindset. Well and good. You're providing after school remedial education, but what's special about you? So I mean that that you definitely have to give that as much thought as you possibly can. Monitoring the success of your proposed program is critical, and it goes hand in hand with providing an accounting for how the money was spent. You can't just say the money was spent hiring 30 tutors, for the past 4 months. Okay, great, but the end result of my providing you funding wasn't supposed to be that we kept tutors off the street. It was supposed to have been that we provided education to kids. Have you developed a mechanism for measuring the difference in the kids when they walked in from when they walked out to from when they walked in? Did you make a difference in somebody's life? Did you actually help somebody? That's what they're giving you the money for, not to perpetuate your organization. So it's good to say that, and I'm sure everybody in this room feels that and believes that. But I think you'll all benefit from figuring out a way to actually measure it. And it's not only useful for a proposal, by figuring out ways to develop metrics for success, you can actually improve your services. So it's a good and useful thing to have anyway. And these days, when you're applying for a grant, it's very, very, very important. Especially, a lot of these funders are ones you're going to want to come back to every year, or every 2 years, every 3 years, however, whatever their cycle is for allowing you to reapply.